We did it, Alexei. We got the queen of ufology. We
Hi, guys.
did
Thanks so much for having me on. This is great.
it. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm just so happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to come on your show. It's amazing. I've been watching all the people that you've been interviewing. You had good old Angela on a couple weeks ago. I saw we were talking about your Lou Elizondo. We were talking about all of it. So I'm really excited for you to, let me come hang out and talk all the fun things and just all the conversations that we've had as well about a couple things that we find interesting. And yeah, so thanks. I'm excited to hear talk and kick back and have a nice, fun, friendly conversation about things that go down wild rabbit holes. I guess I don't know. I think that's what we're here for.
My eye decided to have something in it all of a sudden. How are you, Alexei?
Good. Just hanging out Thursday night.
I'm glad you made it. I was worried that you wouldn't make it. I appreciate you being here.
It's been a very long day, and this will be the icing on the cake. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm trying to decide how we want to present ourselves. How do we want to do this? There's Amy in the middle. There we go. So I'm excited. I have so many questions for you, Amy. I don't think I've had this many. I don't think I had this many questions for Lou Elizondo. Of course, that didn't do any good because.
Why do I think you have a bunch of questions for me too? Okay, let's do it. I'm prepared though. I'm not. I think
I'm mainly interested because I've never actually heard how you got into ufology.
How did I get into ufology? Well, so to break it down, it was never like, let me think about it. How did I get into ufology? I always liked it, right? Like, who didn't though? So let's just throw that out, right? I had a good baseline. Star Trek, all that, yeah, locked in. A little bit of Roswell, yeah, locked in. Yeah, it's the basics. Always had that built in, young age. No problems there. And then when did the whole YouTube thing began to get started? I would say I started listening to YouTube, and it sounds really crazy, like 2010 was when I first started. And I've had this conversation with my friend Rich Giordano. He's probably gonna kill me because I just butchered his last name from Groupon. And we were like, yeah, the second I got YouTube, the first thing I did was search UFO. It was the first thing I went and I did. And so that was there. And always looking for the footage of the aliens, of the UFOs. Like that was when I was looking for like the raw footage, right? And then 2013 happened. Is that the correct? Yep, March 13th, 2013. I saw a triangular craft while I was walking my dog. I was completely by myself. And it was silent. It was a flock. It was a V formation, which makes me think maybe I saw birds. And it went right across the horizon in about 5 to 10 seconds, and it was completely silent. And
this is in Mexico, right?
Yes, and it's near an Air Force base, near a prominent Air Force base at the time. No longer in that area, but this location was very close to Kirtland Air Force Base. And, I look back on it, maybe it was birds. I try to be very honest with myself. Maybe I did.
The TR-3B or whatever, right? Could have been something. Could have been something
more than
that. Right.
In 2013, back engineered extraterrestrial craft wasn't like super popular. I know Bob Lazar was in there, but it wasn't to where it's at like the extent right now. Like that's just normal talk now.
Oh, well, we have to talk then because I turned 60 in October last year. And no, it's been around for a long time.
Well, it's been around for a long time. Maybe it's the seriousness of how people have been treating it that makes me think otherwise. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's just with how serious people have taken the subject. Because now people seriously talk about back engineered extraterrestrial technology, sometimes on CNN, and they didn't do that in 2013.
But every generation has their it's like seems like there's this 10 or 15 year cycle. I've noticed that we have an event and we get excited and we ask for hearings and then it dies down. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about that, Alexei? I mean, don't you see a pattern?
Oh,
Uh,
there's definitely a pattern. It's like on a 20-year cycle at most. I mean, like you had the Condor report. I think might have been one of the earlier ones in the 60s or so, and then you have Project Blue Book, like the Blue Book. You know, that I think that was in the 80s. I'm not quite sure actually on the exact dates and times, but now we have one that's happening, obviously. Um, but I always wonder why it dies down, and I think personally, I don't know if we're already like jumping too far into stuff, but why do you guys think that it dies down? Um, I think the reason it dies down is because they don't really know 100% what's happening.
I
Uh,
agree. I agree with that. The thing about it is, again, I think it's important to talk to. I don't consider myself an older person. I hope nobody else does. But when I was a kid, um, I mean, it was. This is. I can't stress this enough. There, this has been around. I mean, this when I have magazine, I have comic books and magazines that I should have dug them out. I hate to do that because I seem like a really old man when I do this. I've got magazines from the '70s that have the same headlines as today, right? Basically, and when I was a kid, my favorite show was a show called UFO. It was a rerun from the '60s from the UK. I don't know if you look this up. It was a show made in the UK, and then it came after it went through its life cycle there. It came to the United States. It was reruns, right? And it was my favorite show. It was like, so I don't know. I just feel like sometimes it feels like deja vu, you know, and so I took a lot of heat when this whole, big phone home thing came and people were excited about it. And I was like, you're not going to find out anything from your government, and got in trouble. And I don't have a big following for this. I don't have the, like, obviously that you do, because I'm not a skeptic, but I've just been through it a long time. But I want to believe, Amy. Uh-oh, should I have said Amy? Sorry. Do you
You can
go,
call
you
me
go,
Nikki, Amy,
Nick, Nikki,
however you feel.
Nikki, Nikki
Nikki.
Starchild.
I don't
can I
know.
just say
Yeah.
Alien Girl?
Yes.
Can I just say Alien Girl? Is
But
that all right?
you could say like us. Yeah, you could say. Well, that's what they know me as. I gotta fix my SEO though. So just call Alien Girl's fine. But if you meet me in person, call me Nikki.
Nikki. Okay.
Because when I meet people in person and they're like Alien Girl, I don't know what I because it's like I know you in the 5D, and so usually But yeah, call me whatever you guys want. I'll respond however I respond, but I won't be offended in the slightest because I go by 4 names if you count all of them.
The the thing is, sometimes I get confused with a
Yeah.
skeptic, but I'm not skeptical. Um, I have a higher standard for what for what I want to view on the internet, because I grew up with the onslaught of the internet, and I've seen so much stuff. I've seen so much fakery and hoaxes and people just wanting to make money off of the genre, that now I have a higher standard for what I call evidence. But that doesn't mean I don't think the universe is full of life, because I think it is. you know, um,
Oh
I
yeah,
think,
100%. I agree 100%.
and I think that's kind of funny because I don't know I feel like at the beginning of each interview I have to make some kind of statement, because in between interviews I get accused of being a skeptic or something, and but I think we're all pretty much on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Aren't you like say you're not skeptical of life in the universe, you're just
I'm not
Oh, I
skeptical of
think
life
it's yeah.
life in the universe at all. I mean, we
yeah.
live in the ocean of the universe, and every planet's almost like an island. And just think of the Earth. Every island on Earth has life. So
Yeah, it's funny because after we had Mick West on, took a little heat that I was too nice to him. Well, I think we're going to get. I think if we all just relax and enjoy life and appreciate each other, we're probably going to get farther down the road than being, in each other's throats all the time. So, uh, what has been that kind of leads me to this next question for you, Amy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Nikki. I'm sorry, Nikki. Um, what is the biggest story that of this current what is the current story of this current phase that you think is the best case? And this may be putting you on the spot. I don't mean to. I always
No, let's do it. That's what they like to watch. Go.
Well, I like knowing what
It's
people.
true.
I really like knowing what people like powers their thoughts, and it's more about that than I'm not asking you for evidence. I'm asking you what do you think is like the most interesting case, and I'll share
Of
my.
all time or in a certain time period?
Well, I guess it has to be more than the current time period because mine is Betty and Barney Hill, so it has to be at least back that far.
Okay, interesting. Which one do I? Well, the Zimbabwe aerial case.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a very good one. So that's definitely one I can't shake off. And then I would say the other is the Phoenix Lights.
Why do I always forget about that one? That was a case where you had thousands and thousands of people witness it, right?
Yeah.
It's very.
What do you think about
Thousands and
with the Phoenix
thousands.
Lights? I think it's cool, but were there any times during that whole entire incident where it did one of the 5, observables, or was it more just like slow, like a lot of lights moving very slowly through the sky? I don't
With
remember.
the 2.5 mile object moving
Right.
slowly in the sky.
To me, the lights they were almost too coordinated, or they were almost too locked together to be what would you call individual objects. But or either that or the objects were linked somehow. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you guys think about Fife Smithington saying he saw the craft and it was triangular, and that some of the citizens were saying that when they held out a newspaper this big, it still was bigger than that newspaper,
Who was that?
right? It's in the documentary The Phoenix Lights by
Okay.
Lynn Kate,
Yeah.
where she goes into Phoenix and she interviews people, many, many, many people, and collects lots of footage of the people who've seen the craft.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Um,
Sorry, I was gonna say I'm
Oh,
not
yeah,
saying it's
no,
one way or the other as far as ET or man-made, but if it was man-made, then when it comes to blimp technology, the more surface area to volume you have, the easier it is to keep something afloat. And so potentially, maybe it was some type of advanced blimp technology, but at the same time, it's a UFO because it's undisclosed to the citizens, right? Like we don't know.
right.
Yeah.
It could be giant blimp technology. It could be reverse engineered extraterrestrial technology. Could be that too.
Yep. What do you think of the Virginia case? I'm sure you probably heard of that one by now.
Just a little bit.
Right.
So Virginia is compelling, and I always try to look more for the evidence of a cover-up than I might do for the evidence of what's going on, right? I'm very interested in the evidence of a cover-up. Because that's easier. It's easier to find evidence of a cover-up than it is to find evidence of something like that actually happening. And so with the Virginia case, what always is compelling to me is that the police officer had picked up the alien body with his hands, and he had put the alien in the truck, drove it around, took it out, gave it to the people to x-ray, something like that. But he touched it without any material, anything, got the crazy. And 2 months later, Okay, there is a time span. Could be all sorts of things, right? This is 2 months later. He dies of some immunity thing, right? And okay, sure, could have been anything. Could have been anything, right? Okay, but here's the thing: when you lose someone you love, and you're trying to figure out how they died, you gotta wait for the autopsy report to come back. Sounds morbid, sounds creepy, but it's true. Okay. So when they asked for, the information about his medical records, trying to figure out how this woman's young husband had died, he was 24. When they wanted to figure out information about how he died, he had to pay for the medical records, which she had to pay, the family did, which is legitimate. Like, it's like $3 or $4 here, but I think they maybe charged him more. I don't know what they charged him in Brazil for the medical records of this young man who sadly passed of mysterious circumstances that people say he touched an alien and it led to some immunity breakdown that killed him. Could have been. But, the interesting thing about it is when they got that medical report to try to learn what happened to him when he passed, there were pages missing. They had taken pages out of this medical report. So there you go. There was evidence that they didn't want to tell him, and they still have questions.
What year was that? Did that happen? Was it in the 70s? What year?
I want to say 98, but here, I'll Google it for us. Yeah. I'll Google.
What's bizarre about that is that I don't remember hearing about that story until just the last few years. Or when did it become popular again in sort of on UFO Twitter? Is it the last year or so? Or
1996 is when it was, and James Fox picked it up and started rolling with it, and then everybody started paying attention. Yeah,
that's what it was. When I heard about that, I was surprised that I hadn't heard, because I've followed this since I was 12 years old. I was surprised I hadn't heard of that case, which was kind of bizarre. And it's funny how you just miss things,
or the things that stand the test of time.
Yeah,
time has gone on,
which is why I mentioned the Betty and Barney Hill case, because let's be honest, that during those years that probably wasn't the best time for a black couple to be be making up stories. And with all the evidence that they had, is that a weird observation that I just made? I don't mean for it to be weird. I just think that the reason I think that case is really credible is because they had a lot more to lose than to gain. Is what I'm saying. They never asked for money, right? There was never a movie deal or a book deal, right? I don't know. What do you think about that, Alexei?
I think that's on point. What you said is true, but at the same time, I guess I think it's a very interesting case ultimately. But when it comes to like hypnotic regression therapy, in order to try to remember something, that's where you really need to be careful about implanted like suggestions in a way. But at the same time, I'm not trying to discredit anything that happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. Yeah.
They actually had physical evidence too, right? On their bodies and on their clothing. Of course, obviously that could be
in the story as well, right? Loss of time or like awareness of their experience, right? Like the event started at a certain time, they ended up down the road. Yeah.
It's funny. I was thinking about when I was trying to prepare for this show. I kept having this thought come to me that these beings aren't interdimensional. We just don't have the hardware in our brains or our bodies to perceive them. That thought kept coming to me for some reason.
Well, what's a dimension? Nikki, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, what would you consider another dimension?
You'd have to be a mathematician, I think, to explain it right. We know we have 2 dimensions, and the third dimension and the fourth dimension is time. But those are all just, we can see those 3 dimensions, right? I do CAD work, so I'm very familiar with the coordinate system.
I think that's a very rudimentary version of the word dimension, like, because ultimately I always go down to perception. You could say different states of perceptions are different dimensions. because we have our set of senses. Another being has its sets of senses, and they all have evolved from a single cell that's tuned to like primary flows of space-time. So like I think almost every single being has a different, in quotes, dimension of experience, but they all overlap.
I was trying to answer the scientific. Obviously, I can't do that because I'm not a scientist. but but I guess sometimes I feel like I get these vibes from the ether, and I just kept thinking this week. How do we and in the past we've had people like Louis Elizondo drop what we thought were breadcrumbs, and he was talking about infrasound and different ways of perceiving, you know what I mean, and whether those are just like you know whether they're real or not, they make you think about what we can perceive and what we can't. um, I mean, we have a very broad, or very broad. There's a broad spectrum of light, but we only see a very narrow band of it, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think they're definitely on a different level of consciousness than we are. Um, Definitely. So yeah, and I think they try to communicate with us in various ways and all sorts of different um, dimensional ways. And I think it's interesting because I'm a huge Tyler Henry fan, right? I'm sorry if I don't know. I just started talking. I hope that's okay.
No, you're good.
I'm starting to go down the rabbit hole, so I thought I'd
You're the,
slow it down and be like, wait, can I go down this way? So Tyler Henry, I love what Tyler Henry's doing. I love he's a psychic. He's a psychic medium. He's got his own Netflix thing. And he's really helped me come at peace with a lot of the ways that like I want to try to like understand death. Of all the psychics that I've seen on a TV show, whatever, like I feel like I can see through the work that he's doing an idea of what it's going to look like or what it's going to feel like or how it's going to be like after I die. And since I gathered that, I was always like, wow, watching this guy always really makes me feel better, because I know he's genuinely getting this information from their past, friends and family. Like I know he's genuinely getting this information, relaying it to them because there's just things that are said. And I know people could say it's for TV, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think it is. And the reason I don't think it is, and it's because I think that we're all connected. I think, like, I guess the best example to say with it is, they always say like, oh, your grandmother sent you a sign and there was a feather in the street, right? Things like that. And I think, or you might be going somewhere, maybe you have like a symbol for your sister or someone you love or a child, and or whatever, like maybe you think about that person in the symbol of, oh, let's just pick something, a 4-leaf clover, right? And you walk into a store and there's an item on the shelf in this store of a 4-leaf clover, and you immediately think of this person, right? I think that's an example of how they're communicating. And I think different people can perceive that stuff a little bit more on different levels. I wouldn't consider myself, I think everybody's on the spectrum. I do. I think everybody's on the psychic spectrum. And I think I'm a little bit on it. I think, I'm somewhere on it. I'm not Tyler Henry. I'm not going to sell you a reading and tell you it's legit. Nothing like that. I'm not going to guess about your future, tell you what's going to happen. I'm not, no, I know where I'm at. Like, I know I'm not super psychic. I know I can't guess the next number, or, I know I can't guess the lottery numbers, whatever. But like, I know I have these abilities, and I think everyone does. I think everyone has these abilities.
I think everyone has, especially different sort of levels or degrees of intuition, and I think sometimes people who are good at being mediums have a heightened sense of intuition about people, because they're almost like, and don't take this the wrong way, Amy. I think in some ways they're almost like magicians. of the mind. That's the way I think of. And I think Tyler Henry's a very sincere person. I don't think you can fake his sincerity. he he has a lot of energy, and he has a sincerity that I think that's why he's very famous. Right, his personality, his sincerity makes him attract people to him. I just don't. My own personal religious beliefs don't allow for direct communication with the dead, because I believe they are in heaven. You know what I mean? And I believe that we don't get to communicate. I think when we pass over, that's when our consciousness and our spiritual side reaps the benefits. Right? There are benefits to being a spiritual person while you're alive, and that's one of them. Right? That's part of the reward system, I think. So, but I don't doubt this. The thing is, the difference between me and other people is I don't criticize him, and I don't doubt him. Right? I think we should live and let live. We should let Tyler Henry do his thing and be happy. And if he makes other people happy, that's awesome. You know.
Can I also speak on that too?
I stopped so you could go.
All right. I totally agree. I think that we all have like our own levels of psychic. I'm putting the quotes behind it, psychic awareness. But I think that comes down to like what I always call the line of sight. So your ability to perceive into time, into existence. And so based off of like what you're focusing on and what your little spiral of existence is what kind of line of sight you will have. So like a lot of people are like, when you're focused on Twitter, you're probably not being very psychic. But if you're connected to the bigger flows of space-time, you might have more of a psychic awareness. But then you were speaking on like synchronicities, like the four-leaf clover, and how that will like remind you of a person or give you a message or a signal. I wrote, one of my books is called Physics of Love, Synchronicities. And I think it's the guide almost, like the synchronicities in life are like the guide to the most harmonious creation that you can experience. So you have these synchronicities that will like remind you of love and like will settle you back to your perfect center versus existing within a doubtful or pacing motion. And so then also, I think that was pretty much it. Because I also wrote down the word delusions, but like that's based off of the line of sight. So like and that the more diluted your perception of reality is based off of things that people have told you, the less ability to be psychic and to trust your intuition you have, right? So it's a combination of all those. Kind of just my thoughts,
I'm one of those people, and Alexei knows this. He's heard this too many times. I'm a super physical person, and I don't mean, I like to roll around in the hay with people. I mean, I believe that this reality was created as a physical reality for us to enjoy, right? And that the spiritual side of us, we have that one little connection that's called our consciousness. But for the main body of this reality, it is purely physical. So every time I think of an instance of something happening, I always go to, how does that relate to the physical attributes of this reality, right? And that's why when I say I think these other beings, and the others or whatever, as like Anjali refers to them as the others, right? I just believe that they are physical. They are also physical, right? We just can't perceive them. We're just not. We don't have the hardware to perceive them. Our brains. We either weren't created with the ability to perceive them, or purposely, or we didn't evolve to be able to see, right? But they're probably ubiquitous, and so that's why I tend to lean towards physical, answers or questions to these types of things.
I agree. I just wanted to say real quick, and then I would love to hear your thoughts, Nikki. But like, I always say that like all spirits have a relative body, and so relative to that being, there is a physical dimension. But anyhow,
no, I wasn't debating you about that. I just I just feel like it's almost part of my it's almost part of my spiritual beliefs that this physical world is a gift to us, is a gift to these bodies, right? And so when I hear people say it's not real, it's a hologram, it's a simulation, it like it's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. Because I believe we take for granted the short life that we're given, and we don't enjoy it. And and who knows, we may be stuck when we die, we may be stuck in a spiritual existence forever, and we may miss this physical reality. There may come a point where we say, dang, I want to go back, even if it has to, even if I believe in Buddhism and I have to go back as a worm. you know I may want to come back anyway. you know
Hmm.
because don't Buddha I think Buddhists believe that, um, anyway, I don't know exactly what they believe. I know they believe in reincarnation and that you can be reincarnated in any sort of life form, right? So that's why they don't. That's why they don't like harming any life, right? Because that could be your, one of your family members. Uh, pause. Long pause. Pause.
Not as long as Elon Musk the other day in an interview. I saw he was like paused for like 90 seconds straight.
Oh, he's such a drama queen. Good lord. Just
I'm
answer
just
the
joking.
question.
I was just filling
Just
time
answer
here.
the question, Elon. You're not short of. It's like anyway. You got me off on Elon. Sorry.
Yeah, no, my bad.
I'm mad because I ordered a Cybertruck, 2 years ago, and I still don't have one.
Nikki, have you ever heard of electrogravitics?
Let me Google it. Electro. I have. It's like a buzzword. Let me see.
Where's ChatGPT?
It's not really a buzzword. It's
Electrophonetics.
more of a science that was developed by Thomas Townsend
Oh.
Brown in 1912, where he used
Okay,
electricity to manipulate gravity.
Anti-gravity. Yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah. It's a popular with claiming that it was flying saucers. Okay.
I think electrogravitics is probably one of the most overlooked scientific aspects of this creation that has ever probably existed. Because people have focused so much on quantum realm, and
Yeah.
gravity, that they forget that there's other forces in this reality.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what the APEC conference is trying to do, right? Is they're trying to discover anti-gravity, right? So there's people working on it, like there's Jeremy Reese, and then there's Falcon Space, and all those people are working hard on it. So I do know people are working on it. I know nothing about physics. That's why I had to Google the word. I was like, somebody's been saying that word to me.
For sure.
Like,
There's basically a really simple, it's like even a kid could make it. It's like you use balsa wood, aluminum foil, and a copper wire, but then you hook it up to 100,000 volts. And well, you don't need that for like the kids version, but it like literally it'll create an electromagnetic field around the device, and it just takes off. And then you have your debunkers saying that it's like an ion wind, but once you get to like 1,000,000 volts, you're warping space-time basically.
I think it's possible to create the technology. I think the government has access to the information of that technology, how they've done it completely. I think somebody's on the edge of it. Somebody's got it, and it's either a private company, it's either some sort of alphabet, sort of government, like agency. They've got it. I think it can be created. And I also think, so I've talked to a lot of different physicists. Like I said, I don't know anything about physics, but I talked to a lot of physicists and kind of grill them a lot on it. And it's interesting because, it can be kind of controversial for a physicist, at least maybe like an American one, to say like, yeah, that's totally legit, right? Like, it's like almost like there's two groups of physicists. Some who say like anti-gravity can never happen. And then there's like, I don't know if it's 50-50. I know nothing. All I know is that there's these two opinions, right, in physics, that it can happen or it can't happen. Either anti-gravity will never happen at all, or it can totally happen. And so then what ends up happening is the people who start like working to try to figure out anti-gravity get made fun of a little bit, I think, because the people are like, ain't gonna happen, right? So some of the physicists, I think, just laugh at the people who are building anti-gravity craft because they're of that group of physicists who think it can't happen, but there are plenty of physicists who think it can happen. So
Science
I just think they're, yeah.
Science is a big men's club, and if you're not on board with the thought of the day, then you don't get papers reviewed, or you know what I mean. Look at and look at Galileo, how he was. I think you mentioned this in a video just the other day.
Yep.
He was not in the men's club. Okay. He was highly persecuted for not being in the men's club. It takes a huge paradigm shift to get. I do think it's getting a little better, but I, I mean, the first question you always see or hear when someone has a theory is, really, has that been reviewed by, is it peer reviewed, right? And the peer review system is the men's club. And I don't hate to say that. I think it's close to being
accurate. Okay, let's talk about some peer-reviewed stuff that got knocked down back in, I think it was actually also 1996. Have we talked about how Bill Clinton went on the lawn of the White House and made a giant speech to everyone that we had peer-reviewed research that told us we had found a fossil from Mars?
We have.
I never.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about. That's exactly what he was talking about. That's exactly it. We have. And people have debated it since 1996, and people still are like, nah, and every once in a while they'll start fighting about it again. But it's a freaking
I want to make sure we're talking
fossil
about the same thing.
From Mars.
Is it like
I would say, yeah. See, I think you get.
I don't know. Is there like trace evidence of the fossil, like from basically minerals left in the sand, kind of thing? Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. They basically changed the report. They wanted to be like, no, not.
Well, they just keep fighting about it.
On Mars.
Like this year, somebody came out and they're like, it's not real. And then I go look at it. It's like some young scientist attacking this theory from these scientists back.
Well,
but it's good. It's good to criticize. Like, we can't just be like, it's a Martian fossil, But I think as time goes on, everyone's gonna be like, oh, that was when we found the Martian fossil. We already have. It's been like 30 years almost since we found the Martian fossil.
It's just
nobody
not
believes it yet.
Right? Until like the
people don't want to believe it,
or the third.
They keep fighting it. Yeah, they'll fight about it and fight about it and fight about it and fight about it and fight about it until. I think what they'll have to find is an actual microbial life on Mars, probably that's been already shipped back to Earth, before they'll ever say, oh, hey, that was a fossil we found.
I personally think there's a guy with a squeegee going around and cleaning off the rover solar panels.
That's dust storms. Don't be tricked.
When I was a kid, I remember I was born in 62. It was taboo to say there might be water or ice on Mars. Okay, and people aren't going to remember this or know. Now, we found evidence of frozen water on Mars, and
coming from the core, like underground water.
We're seeing, remnants of. And anybody, I remember when I was a teen. When did we start getting these pictures back from Mars? You look at the landscape of Mars, and it's obvious there's erosion, evidence of erosion from something, right? Water or liquid mercury or something. But it was always no. Don't even hint that there might have been water on Mars. You're a Looney Tune, right? And now it's just like, oh yeah, we always knew there was water there. So.
And that's exactly how it's all going to roll out. That's exactly how it's going to roll out. Is they're going to be like, wow, I guess there are Earth-like planets, huh? Well, okay, I guess there are Earth-like planets, and then I guess they could have made it to Earth, and I guess some craft could have crashed. Like, it's all going to roll out. slowly, literally, like just like that, they're gonna be like, yeah, they're gonna be, and then they're gonna realize, well, I guess it's not so crazy to think that there's hundreds or thousands of other beings like us. Because right now, that's a crazy thought to the average person.
One of the things that makes it so crazy to the average person is how long can a civilization actually last before they either like self-destruct, and how far can they go based off of our understanding that the speed of light is like a limitation. And that's why I think that once we get a better understanding of like fifth dimensional technologies, we understand that like the past and the future all exist in the same moment. You can jump into a past dimension and then transfer over physically at this faster than the speed of light. There's so much more than we even have like uncovered with our current science and technologies. So that's just my personal opinion, you know, like I think that you can go faster than light. I think you can also travel through time. So in my opinion, there's life everywhere, and it is just waiting to be discovered, you know?
I like Carolina's comment. I'm over Mars. It's kind of funny because again, I grew up with the Mars being where the little green men came from, right? And but then she says, "What is your ideal disclosure story?"
One last point on Mars. It's kind of like a humble brag. When I was a gold miner out in Colorado, I worked at the Phoenix Gold Mine, which was owned by Al Mosch, who was one of the Apollo engineers for the fuel tanks. And basically, he introduced me to a club called the Badass Hard Rock Miners of Colorado, which was run by a woman named Mary. And Mary was in charge of the Phoenix rover that went to Mars and named the Phoenix rover after the gold mine. So it's just like a really small world there, and that whole like.
It is a small
That's
world.
super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I love it.
As a super side note, my youngest son Alex just got a job at this tech company here that makes chips, and they were told that they have some of their chips are going to be in the next rover going to Mars, which I thought was awesome. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Super
Kiddo
side
sending
story.
chips to
Sorry.
Mars. That
Do
is
we have
cool.
our super side note? There's a face on Mars. I'm just kidding. All right.
Sidonia, what's it called?
I think it is Sidonia, right?
Sidonia.
Yeah, something like that.
The face on Mars.
What about our disclosure story? Mine is going to be really. I have a high standard for disclosure. I need it. I actually need. I actually need one a UFO to land in my yard and come and say hi. So if you're listening out there, that's it. I don't want to see any videos. I don't want to see any fuzzy videos or pictures, which I want to talk about some fuzzy videos in a minute when we get around to it. But what about you, Nikki?
Yes, thank you, Tony. I think for me, the ultimate disclosure would probably have to be because disclosure happens and it's just kind of like forgotten, right? They wait till everybody's who be care would be dead, like the JFK files, right? Like Donald Trump pushed, or maybe he didn't, I don't know, I don't care, to get the JFK files out there, right? They were like dropped, somehow we got the JFK files, they came out. Finally, we had to push for it, and we're still pushing for more JFK files. There's a nonprofit currently in a lawsuit with them because they it's illegal for them not to release it. They're still holding on to some of the JFK files right now. And when they released the JFK files, they realized that even the autopsy guy was like, yeah, it looks like he got shot twice with 2 different bullets from 2 different angles. And like it came out, and everyone's like, everyone who cares is dead. Okay, guys, this is what we do have to push this faster. When it comes to UFOs, what I think is going to make it happen is it has to be Roswell. Hearing Roswell being brought up at the Capitol building was absolutely insane. Hearing this being thrown here and there, that like actually the citizens who have been elected into political office, right, that they're sitting there asking questions about Roswell like all of us are, I think is a huge indication that this is onto something. Like it's not just like some Joe sitting being like, I think it's Roswell. Like everyone's kind of like, what's going on here? You know, it's not just all the tinfoil people with the bottom of the hats and they like the green. No, that's over. These are people who are like, are there aliens in the sky? Like, I am an intelligent person. I do not have to defend you. I am a politician. I was elected into office because you all liked me enough. And you think I was smart enough, you think I'm cool enough to put me into office. And now I got questions about Roswell. And so to just like ridicule people who've been elected into office or have been able to like drive, you know, F-16s and all this crazy military stuff. And I'm not saying like you got to believe in like every single person. No, but what I'm saying are these are intelligent people. This is not some random person. This is not a random person. This is
really the question is though, what is it? I mean, are you saying that if they just released documents? Because for me, I mean, we kind of created our government as a big vault for secrets, and I don't think and every time, I mean, I've actually done FOIA requests myself, and I got so disgusted with it, I just said, forget it. You're not going to get any information out of FOIA, right? Because they're so redacted, and I don't think we're going to get disclosure from our government.
So we were talking earlier about the evidence of a cover-up. And I was telling you guys what I think is interesting is the evidence of a cover-up. And the government has something with Roswell. Right. And that's disclosure to me. Whether
if you prove they're covering up something, it still doesn't answer the question of what it is, right? And that's the trick. That's kind of the trick that our government is playing right now. They're telling us that it's real, but they don't know what it is, and that's a contradictory statement. You can't say something is real without knowing what it is that you're saying is real. So it's sort of a play on words, and it's innuendo, and it's
Well, I think it's different for everybody. You got your individual, for you on a personal level. What is it that you got to find out to learn to believe this stuff is real? As on a personal human, you're out here doing your little universal trip, figuring out your journey. Okay. We all have them, man. Like us podcasters, we are seeking something. We are seeking something from each other. Okay, we are. And if you're following that little journey and you're doing it for your personal self, I think you can find the answer. I think it's really easy. If you just go out there and you start being like, hey, like, is this like, so what about this alien stuff? Like, blah, 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 blah. I think you will find people who approach you and will tell you. And you have the option to decide if you believe them or not. And the day that you have the idea that you believe them, you might change your mind. On a public level, I don't think anything. I think just like I told you, 30 years later, everyone who cares right now, I don't know, it sounds negative. They'll be dead. And I'll be dead by the time they start talking about it. Because I won't be around to be like, oh my gosh, you guys. No one will care. So there'll be like some person who's like, "Oh, dude, Roswell's real," and everyone will be like, "Oh yeah, all those people who cared are dead."
There won't be a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift literally is a mass of people. Not just that it's a mass of people. It's just that mass of people had a personal shift in their own minds. You can't have a paradigm shift with a mass of people believing in something that they think is maybe half real, right? Every one of those little people, those brains have to come to their own conclusion. So it is a personal thing, right? So we won't have I don't think we'll have any sort of total paradigm shift until we have a huge number of people come to that conclusion in their own minds. I don't think, honestly, I don't think there's any physical evidence. I mean, short of a live body, maybe they've got, a being, in a hotel underground in Nevada, or an actual craft that they can fly out, and let the public inspect it. I don't know. That's my standard. What did you already say yours, Alexei?
Well, we were talking about like our dream fantasy version of disclosure, right? Wasn't that kind of like the question? Like, what is your?
I thought she meant. I thought she was talking about for real. I didn't know we were. I didn't know we were dreaming. Or
No, I mean we're dreaming about what we think is real, right? Based
okay,
off of like what we potentially think could be the case. And I think if they were to come out and say, for my dream world, be like, "Hey, Lucius, you were on point, man." I'm just joking, but like they, we would talk about beings that exist within our dimensional layer, so beings from other planets. But then we would also talk about like less dense realms and denser realms of different beings or conscious types that exist there. I think they'd bring out the bigger picture of everything. But at the same time, that's where I don't think that it's the government's position to be the voice of truth, because the government's design was originally to serve the people as well. And when it comes to truth, and Artisan, you always talk about this, like how truth is something you learn through experience versus someone telling you something. And so if you're just being told what is truth all the time and you expect the government to tell you a truth, do you really believe it, or do you only really believe it once you've learned it from your own experiences? So that's more where I lean towards, like the full disclosure comes from looking within. Like I'm kind of on board with that thought process. You know,
yeah. I mean, I had that. I had that little experience when I was 12. I've told Alexei about this, but I don't claim to, like, when I say I don't claim to be an experiencer, I don't mean I criticize those who do. I just mean I don't think. Uh, I think there are so many things in nature that can mimic the paranormal that we have that I have. I'm careful about calling myself, because I don't really want to belittle actual experiencers, right? But I saw this light and it appeared to come through my window, right? But I still don't. That's still not enough for me, right? Um, because if we're never actually going to be, it may be that, like I was saying earlier, that we don't have the hardware in our bodies to perceive them. Then we're just going to have to live with this thought of them maybe being there for forever, right? We may not ever have the ability to perceive them, which is kind of a sad thought. But that's why really I kind of go through my life trying to live a normal life and not be too obsessed over it.
you know what that just reminded me of when you were saying all that was the concept of like your dog. Imagine you have a dog, and now you are the dog, and you perceive them, and they're with you all the time. But do you really understand the human experience and like what they are perceiving and what they're thinking? I think that's another way of thinking about it. Like
Yeah.
we do perceive the spirit and the greater picture, but we don't experience it from their point of view. We experience it from ours. You know?
Right. Huh. I have to be careful too, because sometimes Alexei puts me in a trance with thoughts, and as the host of the show, I have to be careful.
That's where you have to like
Step out
break
of
to commercial almost. At artistandtony.com, you can find awesome mugs that say Artist and Tony.
There's
And
nothing in artistandtony.com is just like a portal to all my other websites. It's like a dead spot. That was anyway. What was my next question? What about questions from the people in the chat? I really appreciate everybody showing up tonight. It's awesome. We'll generally have like,
well,
10
I
or so.
kind of wanted to address Carolina's question. It said, imagine after this disclosure, would our maps change? I don't think our map of the Earth would change. I think if anything, we might get a new map, one that shows like dimensional relationships.
And again, I think when you say dimensional, I know what you mean, but I think when other people, I think dimensional it's going to be like levels of perception, not actual physical dimension.
Based off of the conscious harmonics in our mind, yeah.
Yeah,
Where like
yeah.
right now you can call this just Earth. Let's just say it's just Earth, and we perceive it within our alpha and beta states of perception. But now, let's say you were to go faster than fast gamma, or at the fast gamma level, there's another realm that ultimately overlaps of the superposition of a tidally locked vortex. And so
Yeah.
now you have a denser realm. You could call that inner Earth within a fifth dimensional view, and then you could also have like outer Earth, based off that same concept, experiencing waves that are slower than delta. And so now you have like an outer Earth map Earth map, inner Earth map, and how they relate to all the different ley lines and vortices that exist naturally on the Earth, and what kind of outer Earth or inner Earth realms you experience. And so I don't think that, I think the maps won't change. I think they'll be expanded upon within a different dimensional view. I thought it was a really cool question.
Yeah, that reminds me. Before we leave, I want you to kind of talk about your books a little bit, Alexei. Where people can find them. But
no worries. Yeah.
And the thing about dimension, I don't know why I keep going back to this, but for me, it's kind of cool that the way I think of dimensions is kind of cool to me, because I don't have to have special. If we do develop something, if humans ever do evolve to be able to perceive these things, that means we don't have to do anything special to actually break into a fifth or sixth. We don't have to have a wormhole or a warp drive, or it. Does that make sense? That most people, when they think of dimensions, they think of literal spatial dimensions, which are very hard to crack, right? Mathematically. But if it's just a matter of perception, and it's that sort of dimensional awareness, that to me, for me, that's more exciting, because that means, that seems like a shorter trip to make than the alternative.
What do you think of the interdimensional aspect, Nikki? I'm curious what you think about that. Or do you think it's like all physical planetary stuff?
I just want to shout out one of my friends in the chat real quick. Is that cool? I just want to say Pyramid 7 said, don't you think that Pyramid 7 is the greatest YouTube friend ever? And I just want to say yes. I would say yes in the chat. I don't know. It's a real weird trip for me. But when it comes to interdimensionals, I don't think they're physically on the same physical plane as us at all. I mean, I think they're interdimensional. And yeah, like I think all of us have experienced some sort of activity with interdimensional beings at some point in our life, whether we like to admit it, or not. Like some people may be super religious, and they just never let this topic in, but their grandfather visits them in a dream after he passes, and they swear to goodness that was him, or something like that, like people have these spirit. And so that's what's interesting to me. Like when it comes to Skinwalker Ranch has been incredibly interesting to me, because I got to go to Vernal almost exactly a year ago and hang out in the Uinta Basin. And there was another ranch called Blind Frog Ranch that was 30 miles from Skinwalker Ranch. All this magical
Were you at
stuff.
that expo? Did we meet?
I think we did. Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think.
Yeah, Alexei, we were
Y'all just trying to keep it a secret.
We were talking about aliens somewhere.
Like,
I think so. Yeah, we were talking.
You all had too many martinis,
I think multiple ones. Yeah.
I did the balloon launch for the UAP Society.
Yes, I see. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a small community, isn't it? Yeah. That's right. We have talked to aliens before. Yeah. Been there, done that.
Nikki, I want to try to bring you over to my side, okay?
Wait.
So imagine that they're not interdimensional. Imagine that they're just there and you can't perceive them. They're part of our dimension.
Well, yeah, I totally think that, though. No, like
interdimensional is a very that's one thing. That's a feat.
Yeah, but I mean, you could embody and like create your own avatar variation through some interdimensional stuff, right? Like,
why do they have to be? Why do they have to be interdimensional? Why can't they just be? I mean, think about the wavelengths of light. Just something simple like infrared light. Just something that simple. It's just one small spectrum away from our eyesight, and it's there all the time. And we can't perceive it. Just keep expanding. We don't even know what dark energy is or dark matter. We don't know what 85 to 90% of the stuff is in this universe. And let alone
99% is a safer number.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was edging it to 95,
No, I
96,
heard you.
97. But you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
just
humans are.
babes.
Yeah.
We're just babes when it comes to science, you know. Um,
Yeah.
that that's more exciting to me than some other dimension, right? Because other dimensions get weird, right? Other dimensions may not even be habitable. They may just be theoretical, right? So, but uh,
That's why when I just want to, throw it out there. That's why when I speak on dimensions, I speak on dimensions of perception based off of conscious harmonics, acoustic waves, visible spectrum. It's dimensions of
right,
perception through evolution.
I just think people kind of tend to extrapolate from that you're talking about like physical or
I don't buy into string theory.
yeah. See, I'm not a big string
Yeah.
theory guy either, and that's why I harp on this thing that we're just not. Especially after hearing things from people like, and I know some people don't like Lou. I actually like Lou. I don't take
He's a
all
nice
this,
guy.
take all that other stuff away. I think he's he's a cool guy. But um, I think he also thinks that, uh, they're not interdimensional per se because he keeps dropping these breadcrumbs about, perceiving or different. He dropped the breadcrumb about the work that the Galileo project's doing with different tools to perceive uh, in different ways. Anyway,
I think we're all connected, man. That's what I
pause.
know for sure.
Pause for spiritual connectivity.
I was pausing to hear Nikki's input.
About string theory, about all
You know
these
what
theories.
No, not about string theory, just about what Artisan was saying.
you know what I meant. You know what I meant to do. I meant to ask you to do a reading for
I
me.
have questions
But,
for you. Yeah, let's do a reading. Yes.
What
Both
kind
of you.
reading do you do?
oh, you can. I was afraid I wouldn't have you prepared or something.
Like a tarot reading?
I am a starseed
Do I have to
reader.
take my birthday?
We're again. No, we don't need that.
Oh, that's that.
Just
Is
watch
there a way
this.
to do a dual reading?
That's what I was thinking. I was going to do a reading for your podcast.
There
All
we
right.
go.
Okay.
So I got to
Maybe.
get your crystal. I already channeled you guys before the podcast, actually. So maybe that's why I'm already ready. I already knew.
That's
I already knew
dangerous.
exactly what you guys were up to. I was playing my singing roll bowl, and I was thinking about you guys, and I was like, I got
Alexia has a ball.
both of your energies because I watched the show before I came on, and so I know your energies already. But we're gonna get some clarification. So I need you guys to look at
I've
these
got
crystals
this right now. Sorry.
Good. See when it all connects. See, yeah, I'm sending a freak. I feel it. I feel the frequency. I feel it. Okay, you guys ready? You're gonna take a deep breath. And everybody in the chat too. They all wanted a reading as well. Is that your mug? I gotta buy one. I gotta get one now. Everyone in this chat. Well, this is the podcast reading for
Okay, I'm
for
going
the
to
podcast. So we're doing a reading for people I find interesting. Podcast. And everybody watching, it's still for the podcast. I love you guys. But you guys know what I mean. All right, everybody's ready. I feel it. Okay. So, do you have a question? Two of you together as like a dual reading, as podcast team searching for answers in the universe. No? We could do general.
Will we ever get married?
It's up to you two, I guess. The decision, the destinies. I'm not a what is it, couples counselor? I'm not a couples therapist, Tony.
I've never had a
I'm just
reading like
kidding.
this. So I'm used to like tarot card readings.
Yeah. I thought what you did was you pulled out like the little card that had the
I did. I just
the
kind
reaper
of
on it, and you scared people and things.
Well, I'm a starseed, so it comes out naturally. I see you're both confused.
The
Don't worry.
question
I'll
is,
help you
what
through
is
the
the message
process.
that is being projected onto us? Because right now we're both in a state of listening to the answer.
Yeah,
Are you open to it? Are you open to a reading? Because it's just for fun. Nothing I say is actually true. The idea is that you take what resonates with you and you leave what doesn't. And if it doesn't, don't care about it. I'm not, this is all for fun. I don't do it for money. No, I do it just to have fun. I do it as a self-reflective thing. Maybe there's a message coming through. I can't tell you if it's real or not. You make that decision. So it's completely up to you how you guys, feel about it. I'm just pulling cards, but journey is yours. I believe in free will.
No, I thought that's what we were doing.
Okay, everybody feel good for a general reading then after I got all the stuff off.
Yeah, well, I guess my answer to your question is I don't have any questions as far as like to ask.
Oh, okay, good.
You get what I'm saying?
Good.
Like,
yes.
Yeah.
You're
maybe
cool.
Artisan has a question, but
I don't make any.
We'll just ask him who's going to be on the podcast. We'll get some messages.
I don't have any questions because I don't make those kind of assumptions about.
So let's start with your spirit animal of the podcast, right?
Oh.
What's your podcast spirit animal?
I'm a chupacabra.
What's the spirit animal?
We are Scorpio, like fire.
Okay, let's see.
Fire covered in water.
I'm a Libra.
What's the animal spirit of this podcast? What is the animal spirit of people I find interesting?
The underwater dragon. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
Just don't pull out any.
That might be it.
Dolphins. Over dolphins.
Spider.
Ooh, the web.
And then I just kind of say things that normally people think about when they think about spiders.
The
right?
web we weave.
Yeah, the web you weave, right? What is the Charlotte's Web, right? There was the but like it's also about connectivity, like the internet. How are you connected with people? How are you building these connections? Isn't that interesting? We're talking about podcasts. So I'd say the spider is a very good indication that this show is very interconnected and it's reaching out into all sorts of different directions. And that's not me just like, I wasn't even thinking about it, but it's true because you guys got Angela on and you guys are getting me on. You guys are getting Lou Elizondo on. You guys are getting, a lot of
Bernardo Castro. Bernardo Castro.
Patrick, Sonic,
Patrick.
The girls that play guitar or violin.
Patrick.
Girls.
Polymath Patrick is probably one of the most underrated channels on YouTube.
There's so many underrated channels.
Yeah.
There's more messages for you guys, though. I feel it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to be quiet.
There's a couple more messages. Don't just get so excited. I think the reading's over.
I'm a friendly.
There's more messages coming through. What do we need to know about this spider interconnectivity energy?
It leads to the light.
I just grabbed a spider the other day and took him outside to go whack him.
Interesting. What does that mean for the collective? What is that? Let's see. Cracked open. Surrender to the alchemy of life. So maybe what's going on is this is also slowly an awakening experience. I don't like reading for other people because it does start to feel a little weird and woo-woo-y, and I don't like doing that because if you get some.
Oh,
but
okay.
I hope the first one felt fun, but like it is a little. I was brought up Catholic, and I was told not to play with tarot, and then my family got like when they got older, and struggles happened. Then they started falling on the angel cards. And then somehow I squeezed in like I don't even know how many oracle card decks, probably too many. Then do the starseed readings. I don't know.
I think
I'm having people pray for a spot for me up there. Like I know other people are going to go. No, I'm just kidding.
I grew up in one of the most conservative Baptist churches in Tennessee. Okay, I was practically born. My first memory of like nursery is being in the church nursery, right? And my first memory of learning Bible stories is the old flannel graph. It was that felt stuff. You put the baby Jesus on there and talk about it. So, but I remember my mother was kind of this missionary type. The church would pay her to go on these trips. And I remember she would come back and she would always have these different looks on her face. And after about 10 trips, she started telling me about all these different religions she had been exposed to. And it was just amazing. And by the time I was probably, 16, I felt like that no human was probably correct about which God was the true. You know what I mean? Like there's there is a God, but it's probably not the one exactly described, and it's probably a mishmash of all of those put together. So as far as you were talking about religion and worried about Catholicism and your tarot reading. Um, I believe there's a creator, but I don't think you have to fear him or it or she. It's probably a queen like you.
Aw, no, I love Jesus. I do. I love God.
Oh,
I'm
I believe that Jesus existed.
I love Jesus.
I don't have
I'm-
anything. I don't have anything that makes me doubt my faith. I'm just saying that I don't think we as humans have it exactly right. That's all I'm saying. You know,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%.
not 100.
It's like somebody handed me a picture of their friend who does astral photography, and oh my gosh, what an awesome hobby. I wish I had all that money to get into it. It's such an expensive hobby to take up. And I was just like looking at this photo, of her friend. He took this photo of this galaxy that's just huge, and we have no. And I literally was just like, humans are so dumb. Like you look at that photo, and you're like, I just can't believe how dumb we are. I just because it's so big. There's so
We're
many
not,
stars. We
we're not
barely know it's
dumb.
there.
I like the word ignorant better than dumb. Right? We're not dumb because if you're dumb, you don't
I
have
don't
the
know.
ability to learn. We have the ability to learn, so we're just ignorant. Right? We just don't know. We haven't discovered everything yet. We like to think we.
Yeah.
I don't think we're I don't think we're dumb. I think we are, in a quotes, cocky. Like we think we are more, like we think we know everything, right? So very like egocentric, but it's like we're humans. We know what a human knows. And a worm knows what a worm knows. A dog knows what a dog knows. A human knows what a human knows. And to go up higher in the levels, angels know what angels know. God knows what God knows. And so like to kind of just relate to what you guys were talking about earlier, I grew up at the Academy of the Holy Names, was the name of my first elementary school. And my middle school was like, the one after that was St. John's Greek Orthodox Day School. So I literally went to like church every morning and had to like do prayer before I went to class. But I think Jesus is the greatest rock star of all time. But I don't think because you are accepting of one religion that you have the right way. I don't think that there's a right. I think religions are somewhat separate of the way because they're all trying to describe the same thing, but to their best capabilities.
I think the way is the golden rule, and that's something that's common among all religions.
Like Jesus wasn't a Christian; he was Jewish, and then Christianity sprung up after he existed. So like all the religious battles don't make sense to me. They're all trying to say the same thing, in my opinion.
I think religion is used as an excuse for a lot of wars, and mostly it's greed, right? Human greed, and that spirit of conquering things is probably.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing for me. Part of my culture is being Christian, because my great 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 grandmother and my great 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 grandfather immigrated here when Czechoslovakia and Bohemia were tearing apart. So they immigrated here to America to avoid civil unrest and to start a new life. And we're all here. All three of us have gotten here because tons of other people did generations of other stuff before us, right? So, so I just kind of go with what they did. Like that's how they got through famines and sadness and all the horrible things. I don't know. Like I just like I don't know. Let's just do it. Let's do it. Give me the. I don't. My dying day. I'm gonna be sitting there being like, please, Jesus, like, 'cause I don't know. It's just that'll be who I pray to in my last moments. It's who I pray to when I think the plane's gonna crash. So I already know how I respond. And it's like, dear Jesus, dear Virgin Mary. It is like it's ingrained in me, but it's also very contradictory to this alien girl UFO.
I don't think so. I don't
You
think
don't
it's
think
contradictory.
so?
No, I think the Creator created all life in the universe. I don't think it's
Beautiful.
contradictory at all.
That's what I think
That
too.
this is where I think every time I hear someone say the reason the government doesn't uh, uh, disclose is because they're afraid of the church and it'll destroy humanity. Christians believe that God created everything. It's it's not it's an excuse. It's one of those little excuses they keep on the shelf for not disclosing. Oh,
The Christian community is ready. They are ready. The Christian community is ready to hear about the aliens coming down. Like a lot of them I talk to, I don't know. It seems like everybody's ready. They're like, yeah, it's been in the Bible. Like it's not a question. It's like, yeah, they've been visiting us forever. They're called angels. You guys just figured it out. And you thought they were aliens, Amy. They're not. They're angels.
Have you seen the movie?
It's just interesting. Like people
100%.
are ready.
Like,
They're ready.
It really, I was going to say that all of that really does circle it back to our ability to perceive. And so if you want government disclosure, well, the government's made of humans just like me and you. And we all have our limited ability of perception. And it's really based off of like cultural expectations and understandings. And so like, is it aliens? Is it angels? What's the difference? Is it demons? Is it aliens? What's the difference?
Dorothy's right.
Yeah.
Oh, did you all see the movie? You made me think of the movie Noah. Was it Noah or
Noah? Yeah, that's
with who was the actor? What was his name?
That
anyway,
guy.
the concept of the fallen angels and that really, for me, that was a really fun movie because I love the movies that go back to that time when there was real creation and there was real thought on how the earth was going to be shaped and the beings that were going to live here and fallen angels and all that stuff. I don't know why that just comes to me when you were talking about, but the concept of I guess it kind of goes back to what I was thinking earlier, that they're among us and we just can't perceive them, and they're not from a dimension, and we're just not supposed to. Maybe at some point in time, maybe only the Creator it can give true disclosure. I guess is what I'm around to.
I think so. I think that's completely right. Yeah, I think everything can only happen in a certain divine timing orchestrated by God or the collective or universe, however you perceive that greater power, that higher power to be.
What time do you have to go, Nikki?
About 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just saw the.
You're fine.
It's not a private chat anymore, is it?
You don't have to say you're sorry. We've been having so much fun talking.
Well, I guess the next line of conversation there would be like, so why do people doubt so much what people of the past have said? I think just to start off, almost like I feel like modern human is so egotistical. Like we think that we have our technology, we have our science, and so things that the Bible says or things that other ancient scripts say are just like people that were just really dumb and didn't know what they were talking about. In my opinion, they were just as smart as we are. And they're using their language to describe what's going on. And so when you talk about falling angels and all that stuff, there's a guy on Twitter, his name is Daryl, and he's from like South Africa. And he films like literally like rocks just slowly moving and then like things shooting off of them. And he's like, there'd you go. You see it? I shot it at 4,000 frames per second. Like, did you guys see that? So like, who really knows? I mean, I think for people to say that it doesn't exist is just to not have done the research. Like to say something doesn't exist is way harder to say than to say that something does exist.
No, I think what's funny to me is, and I know this is a little off topic, but it's kind of on topic. If you think about how slow evolution, if you believe that we were completely okay, I don't want to get off on that topic, but if the human brain did evolve over millions of years, right? that means only like 50,000 years ago, humans had the same ability to think that we have now, right? And look, and I don't know, this is kind of way off topic, but I'm always amazed at how fast we caught on and advanced from the Industrial Revolution on up till now, based on having the same brain that we had basically when we were living in caves.
Yeah,
Sorry.
have to build it up though from there, right? It all has to be built up from there, right? Like we don't know how to. I mean, I'd be going and picking berries, and you guys would be going and hunting if we didn't have iPhones and everything went out. I don't know how to go find a berry that's not poisonous. Like, I mean, when you really break it down to how things really were when humans could think just like all of us, and this time there was no difference, it was the same. I do think that they did. Oh, look who's here. Third Phase of Mood is here. Sorry. I love that show. um yeah, so anyway, the point being is, and you guys got to go check them out because they got some good UFO footage.
I used one of their electric gravitic lifter videos in one of my videos, or a photo of their electric gravitic lifter.
Yep. Yeah, they're doing really great things, and they always have been for like the last 15 years. Yeah, so it's just super awesome people. And I just think it's really great that the community is coming together a little bit more. I think the community can come together a little bit more. I think people can try to collaborate more. If there's one thing, like I see, it's just like there's so many weird, like everybody. I feel like this topic should be in the mainstream, and I feel like it's not. And I feel like everybody agrees that it should be in the mainstream, but like the only way, like everybody, with all the little independent ones, like, never mind. I don't know where this was going. Tony.
I had a quick question before you.
No, but we were talking about something. I had something. We were going, and the boys showed up, and then I was like thinking about the UFO, and then okay. Well, I had a train of thought, and it was important.
But I didn't want you to get. I didn't want you to get going before you talked about this new space. Did I see a video where you were moving into? You were looking at.
Yes, we have a studio. Thing? We have a studio. We're gonna go check it out on Saturday.
Oh, really?
Bam! Awesome. In-person interviews for all the famous ufologists flying through. Got a giant downtown Albuquerque, right on the Route 66. You just walk right in. There's all this beautiful stuff. Yeah, we're going on Saturday. I don't know how to hook everything up, so I'm just showing up.
Is that a space you're leasing? Is that like a commercial?
Hi.
Is it like a commercial space you're leasing?
No, it's actually built working in conjunction with the city of Albuquerque, so it's actually public access as well. Cool. So we have to have a strict, very understanding. Like, I don't play super chats on my shows, and I don't monetize the channel with things that I do in the studio. So it's totally free to the public. The only thing that I have to do is let them use my content, and so they're like, can we play Aliengirl content in the local Albuquerque area? And I'm like, yeah. So we're on the schedule.
You need to develop a little hand sign to remind people to,
But luckily they have Adobe, like that you can use Adobe Premiere there for free, right? Like, and I was thinking about it. I was just like, it's interesting to me because like back when the books became printable, when the Gutenberg press was created, right? I think it was like 1864. I don't know. And what happened is the libraries were only for really rich people who had really big books, right? And so I kind of think about it as you had the libraries and all these things, and I really feel like it is sort of like a societal extension that's necessary for our culture to offer these podcasts, offer places. Like, I don't understand why the public library doesn't have a streaming room for people who want to walk up that are homeless. They're like, hey, I'm going to tell you what it's like. I wrote this, and I like everyone's story could be told. And so like books were the expensive thing you couldn't afford, right? In the 1800s, it was like a really special thing when you came across one, right? It's also harder to get internet access, a nice recording studio, all of these things to be able to produce something. Anyway, you guys got me really, really excited. There's this other guy who does public access in Albuquerque for like ever since I was a wee girl. And he's just like, I got to get him on the show. I hope
you're
he's
gonna
hanging out around tomorrow so I can ask him on the show.
You're gonna have a time slot that you can just go in and use the studio anytime. I mean, at that time when you.
Yeah.
That's
They
cool.
just said it's
Do you know what time? Have you already got the time slot figured out?
Well, I'm just going down to be like figuring out logistics. Like if I get there, I don't know if I'll go live because I might want to pre-record it because, I don't really have anything that I've ever tried to roll out that looked super duper fancy. I haven't. It's all been like on the fly. So I might get there Saturday and be like, we're not going live. We're pre-recording and I'm editing on Premiere.
I wouldn't be afraid to go live. I mean, public access is all about, think about your college stations. I mean, they're nothing really fancy, but they get people, they have cult followings.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of these people are so cool. And it's just great. It's just great. We're gonna get a lot of people in there and a lot more people to use it free to the public. I think that this kind of technology, this kind of stuff that people are putting out there, being able to share like we're doing right now. I don't know. Like I think it's what's necessary. Like I feel like there's this weird veil like, oh, you shouldn't start a podcast. I feel like everyone I know should start a podcast. I do. I feel like it's about getting your voice out there, man. And this stuff's going to be documented. It's going to be archived into some AI, and then you'll be able to search our little thoughts 50 years from now and be like, oh, this is what they were all thinking.
At what point does the stuff we're talking about disappear, right? Because newspapers of the past maybe are disappearing. But do you think that like electronic stuff like this, cloud data, will that ever disappear, or will it always be stored on a mainframe somewhere?
Cloud data.
Or like just internet data, just compute, like you're talking about, like YouTube videos, the internet. They already have the Wayback Machine. So
like the seed bank in, where is it, Switzerland, the underground seed bank where all the seeds are kept.
The Monsanto seed bank out there, and it's in a frozen area, right?
Yeah. They need to have a YouTube vault out there.
There's probably a point though, like where everything that was once on the internet will never be forgotten. That'll be another moment. So they always talk about the singularity of like when artificial intelligence becomes smarter than human intelligence. What about the singularity when anything ever posted will never be lost? Random thought that just came to mind. Sorry.
I think it's there, dude. I think it's legitimate, and I think that's exactly what's going on. I think what's interesting about what Elon talks about when he talks about artificial intelligence is like, what are we going to do when all of the daily tasks, like going to work, cleaning your house, cleaning your toilet, feeding whatever, cooking for yourself, taking care of whoever, like when all of that's done and taken care of for, because we figured out ways to program the robots to do it, what the hell are we going to do?
We sit and we meditate and we connect to the realms of creation.
You know what?
I'm willing. Really, like, what do we do when all of our needs are met? Like, it's a very interesting concept. I'm willing
to risk the apocalypse to get my toilet cleaned by a robot. Let's just say that. Okay.
Well, to square up your window before it goes in.
I wanted to paint my tiny shack. It needs another coat of stain on it. Mm-hmm. Well,
man, this is a great combo.
Are you going to come back and visit us again, Nikki Starchild, Queen of?
I will. You guys got to come visit me. Let's do a panel on my show. We'll bring in one other person.
I don't do well at discos. I don't do
discos. What makes you think you're going to a disco?
Whenever I watch your morning show, sometimes I feel like I'm waking up to a disco. It's all
you should be in this room in the morning, man. Well, you are. You were here this morning. The new lighting system's pretty awesome, isn't it, Tony? It's pretty good.
It does. It feels like a dance party. I was like, man, it's too early for a dance party.
I think I'm just waking myself up. Everybody's trying to wake up. Everyone's like, why are we UFO podcasting this early? It's just dumb.
Full color flash.
All right. Any closing thoughts? Any closing?
I know I should have. I should have matched. I should have matched. Once I realized you were blue, I was like, I should have done blue. Look, we could have all done a blue show.
They don't have one that says disco. I would pick that if they did.
The next time
I
you're here,
have
we're
full
going to
color
talk about
flash.
artificial intelligence the next time you're here because
There we
it's
go.
one of my favorite topics, and
AI.
I love
AI's
it. And
AI's the worst, the best,
the
It's also
best.
my favorite
and the
movie.
worst.
Hmm?
AI.
You know, like Terminator. Or like as a kid growing up, I
Oh,
always thought like T2
yeah.
was like a really cool. The special
Mhm.
effects in T2 were amazing. Like,
Dude, I love. Oh yeah, so good, so good. I love all those movies. I need to watch more movies. Maybe I don't
All right.
know.
Any closing thoughts, Nikki? Any
Great
closing thoughts?
podcast.
my
Thanks.
closing statement to Nikki is I really like how you're flashing your colors. That pink was hot. I liked
The
it.
pink is amazing, right?
Isn't it?
My final thoughts is that I just think this is a really good podcast and I had a lot of fun. I think you guys are talking about a lot of really cool, awesome things that I think we were talking about synchronicity. I always feel like when I get to go on a show and talk with some people and we're in alignment. And then you said the weird thing, Alexi, you said what did you say? This is my closing thought. It's much harder to prove that something doesn't exist than to prove that it does exist. Is that what you said? Yeah, it's
Definitely.
true. It's much easier to prove that something exists than what it doesn't, than that it doesn't exist. Anyway, so that's something I'm going to put on my back pocket as I move on to this crazy journey of figuring out where these aliens are at. Because I think everyone thinks they're out there. The big question is, are they visiting us? That's the one people fight about. Like, I'm actually actively looking for someone who's just like, there's no one. It's not, there's no one else, just you and me and the other humans. I think, like, when you really shake most people down, they're like, all right, fine, I don't know. They're probably out there. I'm
I don't
looking
know.
for them.
I don't know if you saw the interview with Mick West, but I was at one point I flashed this chart up and I was like, here's where you come to our side, Mick. Come to the middle. Come to the middle. You can do it. But it's kind of funny.
Mick.
The
Mick
reason,
just loves to fight.
well, I know, but I think
I love him. He's a nice
he's a
person.
nice
Fighting, like
nice
fun
guy.
fighting.
And
Yeah,
if I had a closing thought, it would be I think we all just need to whenever we talk to people online, we need to pretend that we're face to face because
yes.
you always act differently, treat people differently when you're right there in front of them, and you can get their kind of a touch of their aura, and they're just a decent person and they're not a bad person, and we just
Exactly.
all need to learn how to get along. But
Yes.
what about you,
There's so
Alexei?
much
Have any
more.
closing thoughts?
I could go on about that for about 10 minutes, but to
I
keep it
know.
as simple as possible, I mean, in the physical realm, like when you walk up to a person next to you, you literally have a magnetic field based off of like your heartbeat, and it connects to their heartbeat vibration. And so it's the physical, like connecting with someone online is awesome. I'm not going to lie. It's amazing that we have the ability to do it, but it will never match connecting with someone in person. Right. And like the type of it's so hard to describe in 5 minutes, 10
You know
minutes.
what that means, though?
Like,
I
yeah,
mean,
like we can't live in the Matrix, you know?
you know what that means?
Yes.
That, Alexei, we have to take a road. We have to take a road trip out to Nikki's new studio. Then,
Yeah, swing on by, hang out by
Out in
my
New
fancy
Mexico, we can go
studio.
to Vernal after, something like that.
We
yeah,
go Roswell.
Infernal.
Well, there's
We could go.
there's an alien bar here in town called the Alien Brew Pub, and so it's a really cute little restaurant. They have like fun little burgers, alien themed little snacks and drinks and stuff. So pretty cool.
You said you're in New Mexico.
I'm in Albuquerque.
Very cool. Right on.
Actually, next weekend, you guys know David Marler?
No, who's that?
No, he's just some guy. He's just some UFO guy.
Uh,
He's David Marler. He has actually all the collections to like a lot of UFO documents, and he's starting the National UFO Record Center here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which will be the first centralized organization to actually have a bunch of UFO official documents that have been vetted to try to be like serious, and like a real archive. And so it's really exciting because he's getting the ball rolling on all of this, and he even has some documents from Project Blue Book in this archive. I've been trying to I'm going to be so smooth, cool, and fly though, because next Sunday he's doing Saturday, something like that. He's doing, it's Saturday. He's going to be at doing a speaker. He's going to speak in Albuquerque at a library next weekend. So I'm excited because I've never gone and listened to him speak. I've seen him on, but like you're saying, I've seen him on podcasts and stuff like that. I've never met the guy. People just judge each other too quick. It's like, if you really want to dislike somebody so much, like just call them up and talk. I don't know.
Just to speak on that
let me
one more
ask you this.
second.
I'm gonna get in trouble. I do
Let me ask
this.
you this.
I'm gonna say something I shouldn't.
But does he have a signed poster by Bob Lazar like I do? See up there.
You have a signed poster by Bob Lazar?
See where it says Artisan Tony up there? That's this background is the signed poster. You see?
That's very cool.
I bet he doesn't have a signed poster from. All right. What does anybody have any actual last words? Because I asked this 10 minutes ago.
I just gotta go see some new movies.
You said something about like self-promoting, but I don't want to self-promote.
That's what it was. That's it. Go ahead, Lexi. I wanted you to talk about your books because I know you talk about a lot of concepts in there. But
I mean, I know we should probably let Alien Girl go, but like I've written my work comes from 30 years of experience delving into UFOs. Artisan has the original book called Your Influence in Space. And I've written 9 books at this point that take you from modern accepted physics all the way to the understanding of different dimensional perceptions within time. It's a lot of information. I don't want to do this like I've been, honestly. It's kind of weird. But like,
we'll have to do another show, man. Don't just because I gotta go doesn't mean end of stream. You guys can still keep chit-chatting about physics and stuff. I don't know, but whatever. Don't mind me. I see. I always break all the podcast rules like I am right now. What are your final thoughts? Alexi went. I interrupted Alexa. What are your final thoughts?
Okay, you all had your chance. Now we're leaving.
I'm gonna hang out for a minute.
Okay, we're gonna hang out for a minute.
So I'm gonna zip out.
Thank
you
you,
guys
Nikki.
should definitely check out my video tomorrow. There's this very controversial UFO. Everyone's been flipping out about it, but we think we have it identified. It was originally reported on third phase of moon, and that was one video, and then another video was found, and that was reported to the Roswell Daily Record. This UFO was found over Roswell hovering. There was all this Twitter stuff that happened today, and tomorrow morning we're going to be talking about what it actually was and how interesting the breakdown of people and how we got to that point through the community. Because #UFO Twitter did he do the legwork, and we all figured out as a community what's a UFO, what's not. It's kind of easy these days. There's tons of information. So I hope you guys come check us out tomorrow morning. And thank you so much for letting me come on the show. If you guys want to do a panel with me, I'm always more than welcome. I'm always happy to set something up, and let's get another podcast show on, and let's just do some people and just talk. Okay. Thank you. Bye guys. I'll be listening. I'm just going to go hang out with my fam, but I'm going to be listening because I want to hear more about your books and everything. So thanks guys. Bye.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you for joining us. That was an awesome conversation.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward
Alexi.
to it. We'll have another reading next time, right?
Most definitely. Bye, guys. Peace.
Thank you. All right. Well, there you go.
I'm so bad with that. Oh, sorry. It's so awkward. But to go back to where we were at, like Alien Girl, that was super cool, right? Fun.
Oh yeah, she's awesome. I like her. And I like to have different people, my goal for the show was to have the broadest spectrum of people, like Mick West, Nikki Starchild, have the greatest spectrum of people, and just to show that we're all just humans, we're all just wanting to get by and have a good life, and Well,
I want to keep that reading going, right? So the spider sitting in the center of the web. We have Artisan Tony going off this way. We have me going off the complete, almost opposite other way. But we both connect at the center point where there is like the understanding that we will never understand fully until maybe.
There's concentric circles connecting those strands too, right?
100%. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. But
all right, well, let's end the broadcast, and then we can hang out a little bit later. All right, thanks guys. Appreciate everybody who came to watch. Oh, Carolina Garcia says her podcast launches in June. That's awesome. Is that the name of your channel, Carolina? Well, I guess it is, Carolina Garcia. That's awesome.
I don't think the name of it is Launches in June.
It might be. It might. That would actually be a cool. It's like a Beatles album launches.
It might actually. It probably worked out pretty good.
All right. Thanks, guys. Goodbye, Alexei.